Zack Snyder's new film Rebel Moon Part 1 A Child of Fire is now streaming on Netflix. And I mean, I've always enjoyed Zack Snyder. I haven't seen a whole lot of his films. I've seen his DC movies, which I I liked them, but I definitely didn't love them. Army of the Dead, though, I love that movie so much. It was so good. So I didn't really know what to expect going into this, but really, after just like really 15 minutes to watch this movie, I really realized how much I love Zack Snyder's style. Like how much I love Zack Snyder as a director. Like I just love his style, his choices. Obviously, one of his kind of staples is the slow motion, and it's obviously very present here, and it's very effective. It works very well. And Rebel Moon for him is it's Zack Snyder's Star Wars movie, basically. And quite literally, because he's even said in interviews that originally he pitched this to Lucasfilm as a Star Wars movie. They passed on it, and then he brought it to Netflix, and it became its own original thing here with Rebel Moon, which is really quite interesting. You can definitely see the influences here. It definitely feels very Star Wars, particularly very Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. Like it's very like space western at certain points, but there's a lot of different, like there's a mix in here of kind of genres going on, because the basis of this film is that we're assembling a crew of rebels. So we have our main character here of Cora, and she is on this farming planet, and basically this group of bad guys, they come to take all their resources and all this stuff. So she wants to rise up against them, start a rebellion, and she's going around collecting all these warriors to be rebels alongside her, and grappling with her past and all that. And when we get to introduce each of these characters, they each have their own tone, which each lends its own to a different type of almost genre for the most part, which I thought was really interesting. And with this being a Star Wars like movie, it's in space. You got multiple planets. The visuals are fantastic. That's another thing Zack Snyder I've always loved for him is his cinematography is great. There's a wide variety of creatures and species going on here, which I thought was really interesting. So I really enjoyed seeing that. And so when it comes to my excitement for this movie, one of my biggest levels of excitement was actually the cast. I was really excited to see some Ray Fisher, some Charlie Hunnam. I don't know the actor's name, but he's the guy in the movie that is shirtless the whole time and has long hair. I know him from Supergirl. He was on in this shot right here. You can see he's in the middle there. Again, the shirtless guy. He was on Supergirl. He played a pretty big part in that in the later seasons. So I enjoyed him there. I enjoyed seeing him here. Oh, Jimon Hansu was another one I was really looking forward to. But when it comes to our cast of characters, Cora, again, is our main character. And I definitely liked her, but she wasn't like my favorite character. Honestly, I think my favorite character was, and again, I don't even know the character's name, but was the robot that was played by Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins did the voice. Of course, the character was CGI. But the interesting thing about this movie, it's part one of two. So the sequel, Rebel Moon Part 2, comes out in April. So luckily it's not like Infinity War Endgame or Across the Spider-Verse and Beyond the Spider-Verse, where we have to wait at least a year to get Part 2. Luckily it's only a few months away, so that's great. But with this being just a Part 1, you definitely feel it, because there are certain characters and certain aspects that are just kind of left hanging. Like with a lot of these characters we're introduced to, they're not fully developed. With us being introduced to this full crew here of these warriors, not all of them are really super dove into. And that's been something that's promised for the sequel. That's something Jimon Hansu has talked about because his character really, you didn't get a whole lot on him here, but he has said that the sequel, part two, will really dive into that deeper. So that's exciting. But particularly, again, going back to that robot voiced by Anthony Hopkins, he was only in the maybe first 30 minutes of the movie, if that. Still probably my favorite character, though. Him and the girl that gave him a flower crown. They were both really cool. I really enjoyed them as characters. And the interesting thing for me with this film is, again, I feel maybe because part one of part two that maybe hindered my experience a bit because I love this movie for the most part. I love this movie up until maybe the last 30 to 40 minutes of the film where I kind of fell off a bit and then I came back in the last like maybe 10 minutes, but I was definitely in and out. Like the whole first half, I was so into this. The world building is fantastic. Again, just like a Star Wars movie, there's so many new elements being introduced here. I thought everything was set up and explained really well. The backstory, the lore, everything that's going on, I thought was really interesting. I thought was really cool. And it was set up in a really interesting way. So I really enjoyed that aspect. But again, after we kind of got our crew assembled, there wasn't really a whole lot that happened because it's kind of more so being saved for the sequel. But I did still have some characters really enjoyed, like for example, Anthony Hopkins' robot character, the shirtless guy, that was in Supergirl. He was probably my favorite human character here. I also enjoyed Cora. I enjoyed Cora's love interest, guy friend zone. I don't know what's going on there, but I'm interested to see. Charlie Hunnam was good. Again, Jimon Hansu was good. We just didn't get a whole lot of him. Ray Fisher is one that I was a little disappointed in because we really didn't get much of him in this movie. And Ray Fisher, I think, is a great actor. He was one of my favorite parts of Zack Snyder's Justice League. So, I was hoping for him to have a pretty large, significant role here. Unfortunately, he didn't. But another big highlight for me was the villain of the film. The villain was really exciting for me, like especially in the beginning of the movie when you're introduced to this guy. Things are very tense. Like I was on the edge of my seat for so many moments throughout this film because of this villain. Just so disturbing, so intense, so unpredictable, so such a wild card. So I really loved that. I really enjoyed that. Obviously there's cliffhangers here to set up the sequel. So that's great. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the sequel because when we're getting towards the end, I was kind of like, oh, now what's going to happen? Like, what really is there left for the sequel? But, by the end, stuff is revealed. There's cliffhangers, a whole bunch of stuff, and there's plenty in store for part two. So that's something I'm really excited for. But again, this is a movie that, like, I was looking forward to it, but especially today in the last couple of days, I've become more concerned about it because the movie has gotten kind of terrible reviews. So I took that into account, and that brought down my excitement and hype level for Rebel Moon. But also on top of that, the fact that there's going to be a director's cut, a rated R director's cut, which will be about an hour more, so that'll be like a 3-hour version of this film. And Zack Snyder has even said in interviews that is a completely different film, that's basically the better version, which I agree with pretty much everybody else is just a stupid idea on Netflix's part because what they're so obviously trying to do is cash in on the whole Snyder Cut thing, and they're trying to be like, oh, Rebel Moon is getting a Snyder Cut. But, I mean, if the rated R cut, if the director's cut is going to be better, then why give us a PG-13 version in the first place? Because, I mean, that's something you would do if it was theatrical release, but because this is on streaming, the rating doesn't matter, the length doesn't matter, the runtime. So I don't really get that. So I was really going into this really worried, kind of honestly debating like, should I even watch this or should I just wait for the director's cut to come out? And I'm glad I didn't wait. I mean, I'll still watch that eventually at some point. And there's definitely a lot of moments throughout this film you can tell where like this wanted to be a rated R movie. There's moments where they cut away, where more gore and violence could have been shown. But I really enjoyed this PG-13 version. I really enjoyed this film. I really enjoyed the world of Rebel Moon. This character right here, again, I don't know her name. I didn't really get super invested in her either. Again, hopefully we'll get more developments on her in the next film. Kind of my takeaway from the film with her character is that she's basically Katana from the DC universe. So that was interesting, and she has these like lightsaber type weapons, which were pretty cool. Action sequences are obviously great in here. That's a highlight of Zack Snyder for sure. But yeah, I really enjoyed Rebel Moon Part 1, again, a lot more than I thought I would, which is really exciting. I cannot wait for Part 2, and yeah. So guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Did you check out Rebel Moon Part 1 on Netflix? What did you think about it? Of course, non-spoiler thoughts in the comments below. And thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video and hit the subscribe button so I can keep you up to date on everything that goes on in the movie life.